Hey y'all, Scott here. You know, the world's a much better place without things. Equity is the worst. I don't want the responsibilities that come with owning a door, but I sure do miss the perks of it. So I bought just a doorknob to put on my shelf. May not do much, but it reminds me what it's like to have purpose.
Why? I like boxes, I got nothing better to do. But they are my only hobby. I also love physical games inside them. I'm half pissed. Physical video games are hard to make. I mean, I couldn't do it. This is the best I could do. Which is why they've always been and will always be special. If you officially release a game on a video game console on a disc or cartridge, it feels like you've made it. They don't just let anybody do that sometimes. We live in a digital age now. It's become uncool to hold things. But for those with a soul, physical media is still out there, and the digital age makes physical that much more special. You're telling me when that game publisher could just spit this out on digital stores and call it a day, they went to all the trouble of using plastic? Obviously, digital is more convenient and the way of the future, but I think physical has enough advantages over it where it makes it hard for it to completely take over, especially with games. With physical media, you can sell that in stores more organically, and I've done some research stores like that. Target enjoys the concept that they sell you a game console which you keep buying games for at Target. At least that's what I've gathered. Sure, they sell digital codes in the stores, but I don't really get it. Little game download cards like this don't even have the codes on the cards themselves. They print them on your receipt, so if you get a download card as a gift for somebody, you have to include these both, which is frankly just clunky paper use. That's the only scenario these make sense in, as gifts. Because if you have a gift card to a store and want a digital game, why not just buy an eShop card for funds? So that's another reason physical makes sense. Gifts! It's way more fun to open this as a gift compared to this. Digital codes just aren't exciting. Couple that with the fact that going digital only means you're gonna fill up your console's storage capacity faster than if you have a sex wall. Downloading games takes a while. It requires internet, a lot of storage space, and it's just not as fun. It's an adventure to buy a physical game. I fell on the way to the shop, that's a story to tell. Downloading a game, I still felt, and that's just embarrassing. However, it is a lot more convenient, and with consoles becoming faster at loading up titles, it makes digital a lot more enticing. Back on the Wii U, can you tell why I didn't go all digital? So digital has its advantages, like a vasectomy. But games are so large, they take forever to download. You kind of almost need a physical option. These aren't like movies or music. These things can be hundreds of gigabytes in size and are too complicated to stream as easily as other mediums. Plus, digital games, if they get yanked off online storefronts, they're a goner. It's hard to preserve these things. With physical, these issues aren't nearly as prevalent, or they're completely non-existent. But man, printing those physical games can cost a lot for a company, especially compared to just putting it out digitally. You have to be fairly confident the physical copy will sell well to warrant a release like this. It usually boils down to the cost of printing the disc or manufacturing the cartridges. So, you don't want to take the risks of releasing a physical game, but still want a presence at retail and satiate customers who want something physical. Nobody wins!
Except for Satan.
A cheap alternative to releasing physical games, some companies have discovered, is what I call a digital-only physical game. It comes in a box, you get artwork, the console branding, the whole 9 yards. Everything you'd expect from a physical release. Except the physical release. Instead of a disc or cartridge, you get a download code, because I really needed 16 more characters in my life. Once you redeem the download code, why do I own this?
This is pointless. It's like the companies that are releasing these things are going, oh, well, this is good enough. If people who want physical versions of our games, they're too fucking stupid to realize that we're taking the easy way out, and besides, all they want is the box anyways. Yeah, maybe a dumb bitch who overly values packaging. I get overjoyed when there's a random blank piece of paper included in the box. But you see, I may enjoy the box, but when there's nothing inside the box, what's there to enjoy about the box? God!
This is one of the stupidest trends of modern gaming, and this isn't only like a 3-game deal or something. I didn't see one game do this and start proclaiming the truth. No. Look at all these! It's more than 3! The first game I can recall doing this was DuckTales Remastered. While it was digital only at launch, Capcom released this boxed version only on PS3, and it didn't even come with a disc! You got an exclusive pin and a cardboard disc, so why am I bitching? This was a weird release considering this digital copy only box was exclusive to PlayStation 3. The game came out for 360 and Wii U alongside that console, so why they made this retail edition that didn't even come with a disc exclusive to one console is beyond me. I will say though, at least putting a cardboard disc in here, that's kinda cute. The pin originally came on it, though I think it would have made more sense if the digital code was printed on it. That way, I mean, the game would be on a disc. But I think what makes this release stand apart from the rest is the fact that it did get a physical disc release, and they announced it a month after the game released digitally. It's for all platforms too, and the box art is basically the same as the original digital-only copy. I guess Capcom wasn't optimistic about the game's potential sales, and then immediately afterwards they went fucking oops. But if you weren't optimistic about the sales, why even do the digital-only physical to begin with? Like really, if you were worried that the game wasn't going to sell well at retail, why would you release a pointless box copy that has less value than a standard release? Oh wait, it comes with a pin. Nintendo did a similar thing with Mario vs. Donkey Kong Tipping Stars, those bastards! So this game released simultaneously on Nintendo 3DS and Wii U. I remember many saying this was their big cross-buy experiment. So only on Nintendo platforms do you have the luxury of buying Super Mario Bros. 9 times. Over on the PlayStation console, Sony was offering loads of games you buy once and you can play on your PS3, PS4, Vita free of charge. Sometimes they weren't even legacy titles, but damn it, I chose to buy Clue Clue Land twice. It was just odd that Nintendo had two systems getting NES and SNES games released on them at the same time, both on storefronts called the Nintendo eShop, yet buying Mario 3 on Wii U meant you still had to buy Mario 3 on 3DS. This Mario vs. Donkey Kong game worked across both systems, so Nintendo tried this method where if you bought one version, you'd get a download code for the other. Yeah, even though this was a modern idea, it still had that classic Nintendo stank. You'd expect to just buy it on Wii U, then go to your 3DS and be able to download it from the eShop with your account, but no. They love these download codes so much they decided to celebrate them with a box copy. Over in Europe, digital-only physical copies were released for both Wii U and 3DS. What a waste! So these boxes just contain a download code for said system. Then after redeeming said download code, you get a download code for the other system. But why not just have both download codes in the box? That way you could just release the 3DS case with the download codes or the Wii U case with the download codes. Not both. Instead, they released both Wii U and 3DS versions of the digital-only boxes where both basically contained the same two games, even though the Wii U case uses up much more plastic and space. Like, not only is that a waste doing that to begin with, but they did it in the most wasteful way imaginable. It's weird because Japan got physical versions of this game. You get the disc or cartridge and the download code for the other console. So Japan was apparently the one market Nintendo felt confident releasing a physical copy of this game in. North America, we only got the game digitally, so they thought there was not a single American who wants to feel this thing. And Europe? Well, let's just assume they fucking hate Europe. If they just didn't print physical copies in general, I would understand. But they went to the trouble of printing discs and cartridges in Japan. But Europe? They felt confident enough to use game boxes, print cover art, create all these download code slips, ship them out on trucks, take up shelf space in stores, but not print the game on cartridges.
Too far.
During this generation, a hot trend was the episodic releases of games, spearheaded by Telltale. You just put out the first episode of a game, then finish it throughout the year. Of course, they wanted a retail presence, so usually around the time the first episodes of their game released, a physical copy came out as well. These confused me at the time. They didn't say episode 1 or anything, it was just, yeah, the game, the full series. I'd see these in the store and think, isn't this game ongoing? Isn't it not finished yet? But in fine print, it's clarified, this is a season pass disc. While it is a physical game, the disc only includes the first episode and grants you access to download the rest of the episodes as they become available. I think what annoys me about releases like this is, what's the point of a physical release when you have to download so much of it? Like, yeah, it's still on a disc, but barely. Is a disc really worth it at that point? You have to download 4/5 of the rest of the game. That's a lot of hard drive space that's going to be taken up by this game, and you still have to get up to put the disc in. At that point, it's taking up that much storage space, why not just download the whole game? I almost feel like the download code in the box would have made more sense for games like these, at least for when they're not finished yet. But no, they did releases like this to almost fool people walking through a GameStop into going, wow, a new Batman game? And they buy this not reading the fact that it's only 1/5 of the game, or if it's after the game finished, only 1/5 of the game is on the disc and they had to download the rest. Because with digital only physical games, you have to make sure the consumer knows what they're getting into. What if they don't have internet but love buying Lara Croft in the Temple of Osiris? There's gotta be somebody out there. Why did Square Enix decide, okay, this game is good enough to get a box, but not a disc? Of course, lots of business decisions go into this kind of stuff. There's gotta be more explanations other than, we didn't want to invest in printing discs for this game. Because while that is a fair reason, it's pretty expensive to do that. Seeing the hundreds of games that get physical releases that truly don't deserve anything more than a face made about them, even by Square Enix themselves, why does something like this warrant a disc, but this doesn't? Is there some kind of totem pole of deservedness where the Temple of Osiris reaches the box and artwork but nothing else tier? You obviously believe this game would sell in a retail environment by releasing this, so why do this? They like to make these releases more enticing with bonuses, a poster, pin, and all that. But that makes me question it even more! You're willing to do all this but not print a disc? The Sonic Mania Collector's Edition. Jesus I measured. This thing is in fact huge. Comes with a Sonic statue, a fake Genesis cartridge with a gold ring inside, a metallic card, and a download code.
You gotta be f***ing kidding me.
All of this! And no disc, no game card, no case. This is a big collector's edition, and it wasn't like exclusive to Sega's online shop or anything, not exclusive to a single platform like DuckTales. No, I saw Xbox One versions of these things rotting in Best Buys. That is a problem you wouldn't have if you just did a regular release. Now, Sonic Mania did get a physical version 1 year later, which kind of makes this release a whole lot stupider. I mean, it's a nice collector's edition, but being digital only is just so dumb. You could make the argument it's to make collectors double dip. We're gonna put out the collector's edition and include only a download code. Then we'll do a physical release afterwards. I see a lot of studios do this. The physical release happens after the digital one's been out a while. Get everybody to buy the digital, then the physical releases, and even if the collectors bought the digital version, they just can't help themselves. There needs to be a hotline for this kind of thing.
That's fair. It's a smart business practice. Might not be the most ethical in the world, but hey, I fall for it every time, and I know exactly what they're doing, which doesn't mean I fall for it. Just means I'm a bitch. Pretty much with all these, I see no point to them. I feel like they raise more questions than answers, especially the mini Xbox One download code boxes. Little keyring-sized plastic boxes containing nothing but a download code and will eventually be the main source of ocean pollution. They are the cutest possible way to kill a seal. But I've saved the most notorious example for last. Ladies and gentlemen, the horror.
It's a joke book. That's really morbid. The Nintendo Switch is a leader of bullshit in this category due to having such proprietary game cartridges. Releasing bigger games physically on Switch is a challenge for developers and publishers. These little guys cost more to produce than just a regular Blu-ray disc, and that cost increases if the game's file size is bigger. I mean, they got 1 GB cards, 2 GB, 4, 8, 16, 32 is pretty much the max, and that is incredibly pricey. The problem is, game sizes right now, how much is that in square feet? A lot of games just straight up won't fit on a Switch cartridge, even the biggest possible ones. So that's why many games are just flat out digital only on the system, even games that would normally have a retail presence. But some publishers just can't help themselves. Enter Capcom. Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 were both releasing on Nintendo Switch on the same day, both as separate releases. They both got physical copies for other platforms. Surely the Switch will succumb to a similar fate. I'm still pissed. Capcom decided to bundle both games together for a physical release, but in doing that, only Legacy Collection 1 was on the cart, 2 you had to download. What made it worse is that this little fact almost forced them to plaster this giant banner at the top saying, "Don't buy me!" This was the box art that was shown off when the bundle was first announced, but thankfully the official release got rid of it, only containing this little blurb on the bottom. It's still pretty lame. It's just, you can't tell me both of these games wouldn't fit on a single cartridge. They're Mega Man games. Low calorie. Now, Legacy Collection 1 is under 400 megabytes in size, with 2 being around 3.2 gigabytes. So they obviously would have fit both on a 4 gigabyte cartridge, but why do that when you can cheap out with the 1 gig? Also, thanks Capcom for forcing me to download the bigger game. At least with releases like this where some of the game has to be downloaded, you can make the argument, well, at least this way I'm saving some space. Yeah, at this point you might as well just download both games. They might have also not put them both on the same cartridge, considering they are technically 2 separate games. Nintendo updated the Switch later down the line to allow physical games to include multiple games in one, so when you insert the card, all the games pop up on the home screen. So if this released later, I'm sure they would have done that, but back in 2018, if they wanted both on the card, combining the 2 of them into one would have required, gasp, developing a game select menu. I would have loved if they combined the 2 releases, called it Mega Man Ultimate Legacy Collection, but no, this is stupider, let's do that. At least Mega Man didn't get the Resident Evil treatment. Okay, first off, Resident Evil Revelations Collection. Calling a pair of games a collection is kind of weird to me. Oh yeah, we got tons of games. Revelations 2. But this follows the same trend. The first game's on the card, second game you have to download. Of course it's the bigger one. 26 fucking gigabytes. Come on, Capcom. If you're gonna do this, at least have Revelations 2 be the one on the card. This game alone doesn't fit on a Switch without a micro SD card. If Revelations 1 was the download, that's at least only around 12 gigabytes. Just throw us a bone here. But man, this box looks great. We do have the giant white banner disclaimer. I understand this for retail, but maybe just a sticker would do? Like, this is always here, even after I buy it. Oh, good to know. Both of these games, the game included on the game card, are games that have already gotten physical releases on Nintendo platforms before. The games that are digital-only download codes have never been on a Nintendo platform prior, let alone physically. If they were gonna do this, I probably would prefer if they said, you know what, Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 already released on 3DS physically, let's give Legacy Collection 2 some time to shine if we have to pick one for the card. And you know, why not just release these games separately? They pulled the exact same shtick for other games in each of these series. Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1+2. Oh, what a surprise. Resident Evil Origins Collection, Resident Evil 0, the prequels on the card, with Resident Evil Remake being the download. So I guess instead of doing the first game like with the other releases this time, they did the first game. Resident Evil Triple Pack, Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, and only 4 is on the card. At least the card doesn't say Resident Evil Triple Pack. That would have annoyed me if 4 was still the only one on there. At that point, wouldn't it have been nice to have reversible cover art for just Resident Evil 4? Instead I get box art that looks like I'm pecking chips for lunch. The download codes do last a while though, most of which last roughly 800 years give or take. That's good, anything less than 600 I would have flipped. You got the games that require a download, like only portions on the card. LA Noire was like this, and I just said, I'll just download the whole thing. If I'm gonna have to download a good chunk of it, why bother with a card? I don't save a ton of space on my system, and I still have to grab the game and put it in my Switch. Mortal Kombat 11 did this too. Without the download, we can only play basic versus battles. However, that's kind of the main attraction, and this is a game that released on PS4 and Xbox One the exact day. I think the download requirement concessions are tolerable. But then they re-released Mortal Kombat 11 with the DLC included and got rid of the game card. Like, what? Why not just have the game card from the original release, plus the download codes for the DLC? Now I need to have 32 gigabytes of free space. Doom on Nintendo Switch did a similar thing like with the original MK11 release. You had to download a portion of the game, but it was the online multiplayer, which just makes perfect sense. Not everybody was buying Doom for the multiplayer, and plus a lot of what makes these physical releases worth it is the fact these games are being basically preserved when they're put out like this. Doom's online multiplayer is obviously internet-based, so it's not going to be alive forever regardless if it's included on the cartridge or not. So putting the single player there and having the multiplayer downloadable makes total sense. Releasing a box version of Fortnite does not. Which one should I get? Apex Legends, why buy for free when buying for $30 is an option? These games are too popular for them to not release them at retail, but by being basically just online multiplayer and a free download, there's no point to putting them on a card. So, they stuff these games fresh with download codes for some in-game purchases. I guess that's an incentive, but if these purchases are enticing you, you're probably already playing the game extensively. I feel like these releases appeal to people that have never played the games before. So what does legendary weapon skin mean to them? Overwatch got this treatment, coming with a 3-month Switch Online membership. Wow, what is that, like $4? Then we got Wolfenstein Youngblood and Call of Juarez. They just didn't want to fucking do a card. For some reason, they both have different headers, which I will reiterate, these headers make me feel like a fucking idiot. Oh wait, there's no game card? Youngblood, I kinda get. This is a standalone expansion to Wolfenstein 2, a game that already required a download on Switch, albeit coming mostly on a game card. So this probably wasn't gonna sell as well as that. Plus, it's 21 gigabytes. I'm not defending them doing this release. I think them just doing a standard digital one and nothing more would be perfectly fine. Call of Juarez requires 4 gigabytes. But you know it's bad when even Nintendo does it. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit comes in this giant box, no game card, not even a download code. It tells you, hey, just look it up. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, they gave it this amazing collector's edition only to have a download code. This could have used a physical release. I get Mario Kart to some extent. That game uses Wi-Fi to connect the toy card to your Switch. It might not function years down the line anyways. But Fire Emblem? I may sound like a broken record, but you're willing to do all of this, but not this.
It's expensive. I understand why not every game gets a physical release, but I just don't understand why some releases are treated like this, especially when the packaging is huge and they include all these other goodies, or if the game is small enough to fit on a cartridge. And the strange thing is, this doesn't work for other mediums. I bought hot dog buns, and they just came with a rain check for buns. See, that just sounds fucking loony.